Welcome back to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I am your host, Brent Daniels, and we're going to jump right into it because we're going to be talking about sales. Ooh, that scary word, that sales word. Sometimes you have that negative kind of thought about it, but we're going to break it down with the absolute master itself, master of wholesaling sales himself. Now listen, there's a lot of names out there that are doing a lot of great things in the real estate industry, but there is only one person at the top of the pyramid, one guy that has influenced more people than anybody else probably combined, and that is, and I'm talking about the one and only, the powerful Todd Toback. Todd, say hello to everybody.
Well, thank you very much for that generous introduction, Brent. I'm real excited to be here. And man, I want to make an impact today. I think you've said something that is really true. You've impacted a lot of people who are brand new in the industry and really have the pulse, right, of what people are thinking, whether you're new or your fears or your desires or the things you're scared of. And so I want to punch those in the mouth with your help. And so let's change some lives. I think I'm really, really, really excited about, number one, giving your viewers some skills that they can take with them to really close more deals and make some more money. But also, let's destroy some negative perceptions out there.
I love it. And just to set the tone here, Todd Toback, okay, he had a Skype conversation with my team, okay? This was about 18 months ago, maybe even 2 years ago. And one Skype conversation about the things that we're going to discuss in this video on this podcast, he took my company's average deal from $14,000 to $24,000. So when I say he is the absolute top person to listen to when it comes to getting more out of every single deal, and not only getting more, but feeling great about it, feeling great about the process, feeling pride in what you're doing and the skills that you're building and the business that you're creating. This is coming from facts. Okay, Todd Toback is Tom Kroll's older brother, and he got Tom into this business, and all of a sudden, these two guys have impacted so many people's lives, it is absolutely bananas. So let's get right into it, Todd. Let's talk about, the whole idea of converting more wholesale deals. Like we've got the marketing going, we've got the prospecting going, we've got a lead. How do we get these people that oftentimes in some of the markets around the country, there's some competition, there's people saying the market's great, and they want to, like, these sellers are almost stiff-arming them a little bit with the things that they're saying or the way that they're acting. How do we look at a lead and be able to diagnose the proper way to communicate with these people?
Well, the first thing, before we're going to talk about 5 very specific communication techniques, Brent. Okay, so we're going to get into that. But the number one thing that I would like to communicate today is that this is your craft, right? Sales and talking to people is your craft. Have you ever seen the movie 300?
Yes.
Brent? Okay, and there's a scene in there where the Spartans are walking through the desert and they run into their allies, right? People who are going to help them take on I don't know who they were fighting, but I think they were fighting, some large group.
Yeah.
And the Spartans, there's only 300 of them, and they run into an army who they're in alliance with, and there's like thousands of them. And they run into them, and they say, I thought you guys were in this fight. There's only 300 of you. And Leonidas, he kind of laughed. He's like, ha 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 ha. Do you remember the scene, by the way?
Yes. Yeah.
And he looks back, and he goes to the big army. He goes, sir, what's your profession? And he goes, I'm a potter.
Yeah.
And he goes, what's your profession? He goes, blacksmith. And he goes, and you? Farmer. And then finally he looks back at his other men and he goes, Spartans, what is your profession? And they all go, ah-oo, ah-oo, ah-oo.
Yeah.
And he goes, you see, my old friend, I brought more soldiers than you.
Right.
Right.
Perfect.
If you're watching this on YouTube, Google it. And if you watch the rest of the movie, one of their soldiers was like the equivalent of like 100 of the enemies, right?
Yep.
And these people, this was their craft, right? These people were warriors. They had no other profession. So bringing this full circle is when you talk to sellers for a living, or if you have a business in which you train people to talk to sellers for a living, This is a skill that must be mastered. It is a skill that you must practice. It is something that you must take full ownership of if you're going to succeed. All this business is a culmination of skills that you put together, right? Wholesaling in itself is not like this magical business,
No.
right? And for you, Brent, I mean, TTP, talk to people, obviously, like me and you, we're like peanut butter and jelly, right?
Right.
And so my mindset for you is if you learn nothing, is understand nothing else. Understand that this is your craft and that you must take 100% responsibility for learning this. And that's what we're going to do today is talk about 5 things that you can do to drastically increase your income.
I love it, and I think it's so important because a lot of people come into this industry, into wholesaling, into just sourcing deals in general with no real sales background, right? We've got a lot of teachers, we've got a lot of military, we've got a lot of firefighters, we've got a lot of people that have just done other jobs, engineers, a lot of different things where they necessarily haven't had to put together certain principles in order so that they can be successful. So let's hop right in. Let's talk about those five steps that we need to take. So what's number 1?
So number 1, Brent, and let's talk about, I'm going to give you the symptom first, okay? A symptom, and I'm going to actually give you the technique. And by the way, none of these are natural born skills. So if you think, oh, Brent's a natural born salesman or Todd's a natural born salesman, no. Right? Brent, how did he get good? Right? Boop, 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 boop. Talking to people.
45,000 conversations. That's how.
45, right? So these must be practiced. Don't think that these are natural born. You can learn these, right? And so that's what we're going to learn. So most people, Brent, is they get on the phone and they completely lose control of the conversation, right? They get on the phone and they're like, hey, I'm interested in buying your house. And the seller starts pounding them with questions, right? What company are you with? How much can you pay me? Are you going to lowball me, right? And then all of a sudden, the new acquisition specialist, the new wholesaler starts just yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping. And now is in the defense. Their posture goes like this. Their hands, they keep shrinking and shrinking. And now I feel like a salesperson. Don't hang up on me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a bad place to be because we make money by solving problems and asking questions and gathering information. Right. And so we do that with a technique called the redirect. The redirect.
That's the first one. Yep.
This is the first communication in the 5 communication techniques. All right. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to be the one asking the questions. You want to be speaking as little as possible, and you want to be extracting information. Right. A surgeon just making a little slice and extracting. Right. And gathering information so that now you can handle objections. You can find out there's a problem, and you can diagnose what your next move is. So a redirect usually is just a question, right? The only time we should be talking is really a question in response to a question or a question after a question.
Right.
That's pretty much it, right? And so I've learned, and we'll actually get into this in a second, right? But I've learned that the people who make the least amount of money are actually, they speak the least, right? Where you'll actually hear the phone, someone talking, right, out of this earpiece right here, and they're just going, and they're like, tell me more about that. All right. So, Brent, you know all the standard seller controlling type questions.
Sure.
Let me show you how I'd redirect.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I got your postcard in the mail, and it says you want to buy my house cash. How much are you looking? How much will you give me?
Brent, I'm just not really sure yet. We just sent out a bunch of postcards, and we wait to see who calls us back. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe why you called on the postcard?
Oh, yeah. Well, you said you were buying properties cash. I just wanted to see what your cash offer was, and if it's something good, then maybe I'll consider it.
Okay. So, Brent, usually we deal with 2 kinds of people who just call the postcard because they're just curious, and they just want to say, make me an offer. And we sure can. And there's other people maybe who have some kind of, compelling reason to sell, so would you put yourself in that category of 1 or 2? And tell me why.
Yeah. I'm thinking about selling, it's been a rental for a while and I'm ready to get rid of it and move on.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Love it. So, and by the way, this works. I made the example of postcard, but this works for a cold call as well. This works for TTP calls as well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We get it all the time, Todd. One of the biggest responses ever is, "How much will you give me?" You called me. How much will you
Yes.
give me? Right?
Yep.
You
Yep.
know what I mean? And I think it's a little bit more on the spot. I think that this challenges a lot of people. That's why I say that you should answer the question and then respond and then finish with a question, right? So, the condition really determines with the price that we can give you. So have you done any remodeling to the kitchen and bath in the last 5 years? Get some specific questions, kind of like you were saying, kind of redirect it
Right.
back to the condition of the property.
Right, but everything you're saying is just really a question, right?
Right.
So I don't care what it is, right? If it's a good question, it's a question. You're taking the pressure off of you, right? And you could be like, really, we buy houses really specifically people who are dog lovers, and it seems like you're a dog lover. Can can you tell me a little bit about your dogs? Oh yeah, there's 8 of them. It's too small. There's dog crap everywhere. I got to get the hell out.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
Yeah.
But I think as long as you're asking questions and getting them to talk, you're now in control. The more you're talking, okay, the deeper and digger of a grave you're digging yourself, right? It could be you're digging the grave because you're going to lose the deal, or you're digging the grave because you're wasting your time, right? By the way, I want to let you know, using these techniques, it is perfectly okay to get off the phone and get out of here,
Yep.
right? So a lot of this is qualification, and some people say, well, what if someone says, I'm not motivated to sell at all, I don't want to speak, the postcard, what do you say then? I say goodbye.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, 100%.
And that is perfect, and that's perfectly okay.
I had a conversation this morning with a student that came in. She's from Phoenix, just starting out, getting going. She was breaking down all the leads that she had. And I said, your job is to disqualify these as quickly as possible. You know what I mean? You're looking for people that are very, very specific, that are going to be pre-qualified leads. And if they're not, you got to get rid of them and move on to the next one. The trash can is one of your best friends when it comes to lead follow-up, because bad leads hide good leads, right?
Yep. Oh, bad leads hide good leads. That's a good one. I'm going to use that one. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, well, and let me ask you this, Todd, because this is something that really changed my entire wholesaling business, like truly, was anchoring prices low. Now, I know we're on our 5 things, but I want to take us on a little bit of a little sidetrack. This is something that comes up a lot. Either people DMing me on Instagram, or the TTP family members reaching out to me with questions. How do I get the biggest deals, the best deals? How do I anchor the price low without, totally losing the deal?
Awesome. By the way, so we are going to jump around. This is actually the fifth one, but let's go over there. By the way, if you do get lost and you want to know more about this, actually, we do have our course, convertwholesaledeals.com, okay? And that's actually our course on actually this in full. So I know we're going to be giving as much information as we can, but if you want to go deep, convertwholesaledeals.com.
And everybody listening, watching, for the cost, it's silly. You need to, this is a prescription. Get it. If you have acquisition managers and you don't have it, you are losing so much money. Anyway, go ahead. So give us the price.
All right. So on conditioning, okay, we're going to talk about when you're dealing with a seller. Everyone's like, you use sometimes you throw out a price because you want to know, hey, is it worth spending time with someone or not, right? If you're going to drive 45 minutes, and I think that's a good idea. So a lot of times people will say, okay, I know that I could pay $200 for this thing. Why don't I just throw out a number of $150? And they'll say, I'll give you $150, right? And what happens here is that this is very adversarial, right? It's a yes or no. All of a sudden I go, boom, right? And there's so much tension there, right? It's like boing, and you bounce back, and you're not coming back.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And the problem is a little bit, it's almost kind of a less of a question, because it's what we call the close-ended question. So whenever you give something a price, you want to say it in a way that's going to elicit something besides a yes or a no response. Okay? So instead of saying, hey, I'll give you $150, say, hey, you know what? What if I was in that $130 to $150 range, right? Is that something, you'd even consider, or, probably not, to tell me what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they could say, oh, it's something about it. What we do is we cushion it, right? It's kind of like, it's a bunch of firefighters at the bottom, and they got the the big cushion there for you, the trampoline.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what it is. And so it's just the way, the tone, right? But what I'm also doing I'm also backing away, right? So it's almost like I'm coming towards you, right? But then as I say it, I'm kind of like running from you, right? So is that something you would consider, or probably not? I understand if it's not a fit for everybody. You might want to list with a real estate agent. No problem. So you always want to cushion it, and so it's almost like again, it's almost like a question within a question,
Yeah.
right? And someone's like, "Oh, that's way too low." Oh, I completely understand. Hey, by the way, do you have something, in mind, knowing that someone like myself has to be able to make a profit?
Love it.
Right? And that's
Yeah.
when you're going to get the number. So don't make it absolute. Create a conversation. Get them talking. If I have to relay anything, it's get these people talking. Yes or no questions are the killer, right? If it doesn't work, what doesn't. I've seen a lot of people lose deals. It's funny. Brett, he's on a marketing team. He's not in acquisitions anymore,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things I remember, he said, I called this guy right here, and house was worth, I think it was like 150. And he offered him 140, and he said no. And there was like a $30,000 wholesale spread. This was like 5 years ago. And I was just like, well, did you get the number he will take? And he's like, well, no, he just said no. Right? I was like, get him on the phone right now.
Yep.
Find it out.
Yeah.
Got him on the phone. We locked it up. Hey, Brett locked up the deal. His first deal, $10,000. By the way, that was a Craigslist lead.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So ask a lot of questions. Be curious. And so that price anchoring is there. The other way, though, let's talk about this, is that a lot of times we don't prep the seller. And so if we just nail them on the spot with no prepping, that's no good. So I feel like if you don't do little soft passes, if you don't do cushions when you go out there, you're not doing a good job letting that sink in, this conditioning that we're talking about. So the entire time I'm like, hey, look, I want this to be a win for you. As an investor, we've got to be able to make, a profit. Some people like to list, that's not us, right? But some people, again, with speed and convenience, they're willing to take, less than someone who wanted to fix it up and sell it, right? Is that something that, you're open to, or are you looking to get absolute top dollar for the property?
So that's how you're conditioning them?
Yeah, one of many things. And so you're dropping little hints out here, like little things like, hey, look, I'm not a fit for everybody. Some people want us to be a little higher, and I get that, right? And I don't fault them for it. But, again, they're going to trade a little bit of equity for speed and convenience. Anyway, can you tell me a little bit more about the property?
Well, how powerful, because I see what you're doing there. You're almost, you're making them feel like a lot of people are just like them, and this is the way that they act. Is that also the way that you act? You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what the term of it should be, but usually we do. It's funny. I had this conversation this morning, and it was, my acquisition manager has the magic number question that she asks, and she goes, most of the homeowners that we talk to, they have a magic number in mind that if they get that, they'll sell the property. What's your magic number? Right? I mean, that's like her thing. Like most of the people that we work with, like you're like these people. People do this. You know what I mean? I think that I mean, it sounds like that's what you're using there.
We're using that, but we're also we're trying to disqualify sometimes, because we're like, hey, some people want to trade a little bit of equity for speed and convenience, right? And then some others want to fix it up and list with an agent, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer here, but which camp do you want to fall in? Like, oh no, I'm definitely in the A camp,
Yeah.
And so now we know, but you're doing that. You're putting them into I'm not alone type situation. This is normal. I'm not crazy for calling this guy off the pink postcard or the blue postcard or the cold call.
The other thing that we really got out of the Skype training that you did with my company was your tone of voice. I think the tone of the way that you're asking these questions, the way that you're using it. You use two words that I've written on my wall and have been on my wall since that conversation, and that is certainty and likability. I think that those are the two most powerful words when it comes to lead follow-up. I really do. Because I think I hear people, I listen to my people, I listen to some of the students that have offices here in my office, and I hear them on the phone doing this lead follow-up, and they sound just down, and they sound like they're trying to be aggressive, or they're trying to be like, this big, powerful buyer, and it just goes, it's a train wreck for them. I mean,
Yes.
none of it adds to like good deals. It almost like they don't feel like they can turn on some sort of likability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I think it's really important, by the way, to listen to your own calls. That's really, really, really important, is to listen to your own calls. So a matter of fact, Brent, here's what I'm going to do, by the way, for all of your watchers, right? Anyone who goes to convertwholesaledeals.com and purchases before Sunday, okay, I will actually review one of their sales calls for them.
Love it.
Okay, and I will send back a recording to them for them to listen to. Okay.
Yep.
And so they can send that in when they purchase the course. I'll listen to it, and then I'll send back a recording critiquing each part of that
That's
that
incredible.
call for them. But I recommend doing that for yourself. Because coaching yourself is have you ever listened to a recording of yourself and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
no, I can't listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I do that. Yeah.
So it's really, 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 really good critique. And so you want to be doing this. Finally, conditioning, let's take that to the house, right? Because a lot of deals we've locked up over the phone. But the one thing people do, which I think people can do better, is when they go to a house, they can also condition the seller with nonverbal cues. So if they go there, they can go to the house and start to look at all the imperfections and not say a word, but let the house do the talking and your faces do the talking. So just, scratch your eyebrows and hold it, and then, have your camera and take a picture of the moldy sink. Don't say a word. Don't argue, right? Don't have any confrontation. And all of a sudden the seller will start making excuses for the property, right? And you'd be like, I just like that face that you're making, just go.
Every time. I'm telling you, every time. I look at like an old electrical box and I'm like, don't say anything. Yeah, the electrical needs to be redone. Yeah, we had a leak under the sink. Yeah, the roof's leak. Like, you don't have to say, you don't have to beat them up. You really don't. I mean, I think that causes a lot of friction when you go in there and you're beating them up and you're like, oh, do you know how much this will cost to fix and blah, blah, blah. I think if you just go exactly what you were saying, just those facial cues. Yep.
Just those facial cues. So that being said, right, if that's okay, I'd like to actually move on to our next communication technique, and that's the stealth mismatch. Okay. So the stealth mismatch is something where, whenever you say something, it's just natural for the seller to say the opposite. So if you walk into a house, you're like, oh, this place is a wreck, right? They're going to be like, what are you talking about? It's not that bad, right? Or like, hey, this electrical needs to be replaced. And they're going to be like, what are you talking about? It's fully functional. I haven't had a problem ever, right? Immediately their guard goes up and they're like, oh, this guy is just trying to get me down, right? I mean, the people are smart, right? They're not dumb. And so you're like, oh, this is going to be $100K to fix. Meanwhile, they're like, no, it's not. I'll call my contractor. It's going to be like 25 or 10 or 5, whatever it is, right? People are naturally going to say the opposite. And this is where salespeople, right? This is where they get a bad name. And this is where it feels slimy because you start lying, right? Or even someone feels like you're lying. So like a lot of times wholesalers will go in and they act like they're going to rehab the property when they're not, right? And they start throwing out rehab numbers, right, when they're inflated. And first of all, it makes you less confident. It makes you feel slimy. The seller knows you're lying. You're not very likable, right?
Yeah.
And they don't trust you, right? And now you want to know why the seller's running the other direction. Let me tell you, if I were them, I would probably run in the other direction also, right? So now let's pretend like the one thing where you're the stealth mismatch is very counterintuitive, but we're going to do the opposite of what everybody else says. So sellers naturally, Brent, is let's pretend like you're in a car dealership and someone comes up to you and says, are you interested in buying a car?
Nope, right. Just looking.
Nope, right? And what are your arms? How are your arms, probably?
How are my arms?
Yeah, what are you doing with your arms at that point?
Crossed.
Folded. Yep, crossed. You're like, no way, I'm just looking. You're a liar, right? Who hangs out in a car lot on a Sunday for fun, right? Nobody. So the problem is, why do most people like that? It's because they feel like this person is going to force them, right? And so I'm going to protect myself by lying. So the stealth mismatch, what it does, it extracts the information. And we use this by saying the exact opposite of what the seller expects us to say. So, for example, one of the things that we use, let's pretend, and you use this when you feel like the seller is holding information back.
Okay.
Okay. So what I want you to pretend like you're you sound like an unmotivated seller, right?
Yeah.
So make me an offer, right?
Yep.
So Brett, I'm getting back to you. We've been following up here for, I don't know, it looks like 3 or 4 months here, and it doesn't look like, you're even interested in doing business, right? But I got a note here. It said that we should talk in 90 days, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we're thinking about selling. We're not sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Brent, it sounds like this is a great property. I mean, we've been talking, you're unsure. I mean, why not just hold on to this thing, rent it out, keep the cash flow?
Well, it's a pain. It's just a pain. You know what I mean? It's been sitting vacant for a little bit, and we just I don't know. We're not sure what we want to do with it. We're either going to put a bunch of money into it, or we're just going to sell it as is.
Well, geez, why not just fix it up then and, get list it with an agent and sell it for top dollar?
Then you got to deal with those slimy contractors. They tell you they're going to show up. They don't show up. It takes twice as long, and they run over budget. I've done it before. It's just a nightmare.
Okay, so stop. Okay, now, do you see I got 2 pieces of information from you?
Yep.
But here's the crazy thing. What was your first? Most wholesalers, most acquisition specialists, they say, hey, you call me, make me an offer.
Yep.
So you're like, Brent, that doesn't happen. What you just said doesn't happen. Yes, it does.
Every day.
Because what happens is that as soon as they get that, well, I'm not even motivated to sell, they say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to lowball this guy with a number. And if he doesn't like it, then I'm just getting off the phone and moving on to the next person. Mm-hmm. And they start no dialogue. They get that boom spot, and you're done. And now you take a motivated seller, and there's no deal.
Yep.
Right? So I cannot tell you how many times in our office where we brought in a new acquisition specialist, and they've worked quote unquote cold leads, right? And all of a sudden, boom, goes the dynamite, right? They've locked up 2, 3 deals worth $30,000, $40,000 a piece, and we've extracted revenue. What was it? A lot of times that acquisition specialist wasn't using the stealth mismatch, didn't see the motivation there, right? Sellers were like this, mm-hmm. and we didn't get the deal. Mm-hmm. So it's real important to use that stealth mismatch. One other way that you can $300,000, right? Did I lose you, Brent?
Yeah, I lost you for 2 seconds. What was that?
Okay, so like another way to use a stealth mismatch is with I have a higher offer.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So if someone says, look, you're offering me 130, I already got an offer for 160, mm-hmm. right? Most people will then all of a sudden come up. That's the worst thing that you can do, right? Because now you're chasing the person. Now they're backing away. And now all of a sudden you start jumping up. You lost credibility.
Yep.
Right? So you can say, hey, look, 160, I tell you what, that sounds like a great offer.
Take it.
Jeez.
Run. Yeah. Wow.
Why don't you take it?
Yeah.
Right? Right? Now, why don't most people say that?
Because they want to just barely edge out the competition. They would rather win that deal, even if it's small or even if they can't do it, than lose it to the competition. Or, they feel like maybe they can make something happen there. They're hoping that they've undervalued it a little bit so that they can get something done. And they want to feel good that they got the contract signed.
Right. Well, but there's one key word that you said, right? And this is the destroyer of all wealth, and that is fear. Fear, right? They want to say, why don't you take that? Well, the person could say, you know what? I am going to take it. Thank you for reminding me, right? Well, first of all, if you didn't kill the deal if that happened, right? They were going to take it anyway.
Yep.
Right. But at the very least, if you do that stealth mismatch, they're going to say, well, this guy is actually like kind of a real estate agent friend, and he's got a buyer he's bringing by.
They got to get a loan.
They got to get a loan, and now all of a sudden, now you're reeling them in, baby. You're reeling them in, right? And so now the seller starts to trust you because you're like, he told me to take a higher offer. Mm-hmm. What person in their right mind? So using these, it's interesting. By using the stealth mismatch, right? Mm-hmm. And by doing this, you actually gain trust during the process. I got a great, this is actually some seller role plays in the no limit selling system, convertwholesaledeals.com.
Yep.
There's an actual role play on this with an extra seller, and we just turn them around with that stealth mismatch, Brent, where he's just like, I've got a higher offer, doesn't trust him. It's phenomenal. It's in the course. It's convertwholesaledeals.com. But you got to try it. Next call, if you're on this, don't be scared to tell a seller to take another offer. It's a great example.
Love it.
Stealth.
You hit it right on the head. Every time I get a new acquisition manager, Todd, they pull out deals from dead leads. Every time. Every time they get as you call, a massive deal, an MD, they fall into it because they don't have these hallucinations that a lot of people that are in the business for a while have, because they have sellers, they have deals that don't go through. They're assuming everybody wants to sell. They're assuming that everybody just needs a little bit of communication and a little bit of love and listening, and they're thinking that there's gold in there if they just, kind of ask the right questions, and they're coachable, right? And then after a while, they want more deals and more deals and more deals, and then they get kind of like clouded with too many hallucinations and not just focus on that one person at a time. It is 100% true. I love that you brought that up. And it's funny, even with new people that join the TTP program, right off the bat, boom, they get this deal and they're so excited about it, and then they go through a little bit of a slump, right? They go through they start thinking too much. I say it all the time, you got to be dumb. You can't overthink this. If you overthink it, you're going to get destroyed. And like you said, if somebody's going to come with you, if somebody's going to say that they have a higher offer than you got to cheerlead. That is, congratulations. That is an incredible offer. So why haven't you taken it? You know what I mean? Like.
And part of that is, even if you start fighting over that and getting over that, it's like, well, congratulations, you just wasted like 3 weeks with the toughest seller in the world, making $3,000. And I know you want to win, right? And I get it, but you've got to be willing to throw away a deal to make the big ones. I've talked about that. By the way, and Brent, I really want to emphasize something, because you see a lot of people come in, and you're right, they're naive. And they're listening to everything coaches say, right? They're like, I don't know anything. And they soak it up. And they do a deal, and they get, too smart for their own good. And the one thing I really do want to emphasize is that this is not a natural born talent. It's a skill. When I first moved to San Diego, I had $300 in my pocket, and I started selling alarms door to door. And I'm telling you, it was rough. I was working 3 weeks, 9 to 5, and I didn't sell one. And there was this girl next to me. Her name was Kat. And this girl, Kat, right, she was living in an RV down by the beach. I mean, she was pretty cool. She was making like $1,000 a day selling alarms. And she would take the script, and she would be in the car. She's role playing it and practicing it, right? In her 50s, right? And she'd smoke a lot of pot. I mean, she was a really interesting lady.
Yeah.
But she would practice her script. And she knew it was her craft. And I remember complaining, like, this didn't work, right? And I was 22, and she goes, as soon as you stop blaming everybody else, right, and take this script seriously, that's when you'll be successful. So if you're like, this is not me, well, it could be you.
Yep.
Right? You just got to make that decision.
Yeah. And I mean, the path is laid out there. You've got it there at convertwholesaledeals.com. Phenomenal training in that. There's 2 more that we wanted to talk about, right?
Yep. Okay. So let me see here.
So let's go back through the 3 so far.
Okay, so we've done the redirect, right? Yep. That's obviously asking questions and maintaining control of the conversation. Make the seller do all of the talking. You brought us down to conditioning. Real important, right? For that, obviously, preparing the seller that they're going to have to take less than a full retail. And then we used the stealth mismatch, right? When the seller's withholding information, and you actually go the opposite of what the seller thinks that you're going to say, to extract that real information, Brent.
Love it.
All right, so there's 2 more. Man, I don't know which one I should hit first, but let me talk about probably my favorite.
Okay.
All right, this is because this separates the men from the boys right here. This is really, really men from the boys. The people who get this are the big money closers. Mm-hmm. All right, big money. This is actually like all this other stuff is like gathering information, right? You know, like, okay, I've got one on the line, Brent, like I've got a problem, right? So why is there some people who say, hey, I got the contract, right? Well, the people who understand this very concept, okay, are the ones who win. And that is, all right, the verbal commitments. The verbal commitments. Now, what verbal commitments do is they take timelines and they compress them, okay? They compress the timelines. And why is this so important? Because most business owner, most salesperson live like month to month, deal to deal. And because they see a deal like 3 months down the line, a motivated seller like, oh, I know I'm eventually going to get that, right? Is they're perpetually kicking the can down the road for this $20,000 deal, which over 4 months for that one $20,000 deal equals like what?
5,000.
$5,000, right? Which, hey, you might as well get a job at that point, right? So you have to learn how to take deals that would normally take 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, and get them into 30 days by coaching the seller and selling verbal commitments. This must be done, right? So sellers by nature, the ones who sell to us, are procrastinators. They got in the situation because they are that they're in because they're procrastinators, right? They let their brother live in the property rent-free for 5 years, right? They got a job across the country and waited to the last minute to take care of it, right? Mm-hmm. They're in foreclosure and didn't get a job, right? They had tenants and they didn't evict after 6 months, right? So past performance in real estate is an indicator of future results, unlike the stock market.
Yeah.
Right? So understanding that it's your job to coach these sellers into moving forward. Sellers do not know what next action to take. And so they need you to drive the process. You are the engine. You set the tone. All right. And so how do you do this, right? By setting a very specific commitment with the seller on every single phone call. So Brent, in a normal situation, someone says, hey, you know what? You know, that 130 price, right? That sounds good. Let me think about it. Right? Is that pretty common?
All the time. Every day.
All the time.
Every
right?
day.
Let me tell you, this will kill you, right? A number of things could happen. Number one, they might call you back in 3 weeks and say yes, and you hope and pray, please, 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 right?
Yep.
Revenue killer, right? Anxiety, fear, like you're just hoping, right? Two, they could be lying to you. They could be lying and they just don't want to say no, right? Happens all the time.
All the time, especially with like really sweet, kind people. They don't want to let you down. Even if you're a stranger, they don't want to like offend you. So they'll lead you on, and then ghost.
Right. So the verbal commitments, here's what we're going to do, right? So Brent, great question. I understand that you'd like to think about it. Can you tell me a little bit of what actually you want to think about specifically that it's going to enable you to make a decision, yes or no? And I want to let you know, no is absolutely fine.
Love it. Yep.
Right? And so tell me what you're thinking here.
Oh, we need to pray about it. We need to pray about it and make sure that it's the right decision for the family.
Okay, totally get it. I'm a believer. I get that. Let me ask you something. What do you think would be a reasonable time for you to, pray about it, and kind of what are some external factors that you also have to worry about, if there are any?
No external. Just I need at least a week.
Okay, so you'd like a week?
Yep.
Okay, great. So how about this? We got a week. I've got an opening here at 10 a.m. In between now and then, you'd like to pray about this and kind of get an answer from God, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Totally okay. Do me a favor. In between now and then, we'll speak on Friday, 1 week from now. Are you okay telling me yes or no?
Yeah, next Friday. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. By the way, I'm kind of sensing a little hesitancy in your voice, something that you're uneasy about. Do you mind sharing me something about that?
Yeah, I just don't know. We were hoping to get a little bit more for the property than. Yeah.
Okay. And what were you thinking?
Well, you said 130. We were thinking more like 155. Was kind of our sweet spot.
Right. Again, I know it sounds like praying is definitely like probably top of the list here, right? And that the price probably will have no impact on your decision then.
Well, price. I got to do both. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Totally get that. Let me ask you something. What price would kind of make that voice a little bit louder in your head when you're praying?
If we can get into that 150 range, I think that voice will get real loud.
Okay, I can't quite do 150. I can't do it, but is there a number where, again, if there's maybe a little bit of flexibility that would enable us to do business?
Man, the best I could do probably is like 145.
Okay.
Yep.
And what if I could tell you I could do 145? What would be the next step?
I think we could do business. Yeah, I think we could do some business. That'd be good.
Okay.
I think everybody would be happy with that.
Okay, like who?
Oh, just the wife and, the kids and, everybody.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, instead of meeting next week, do you want to talk to your wife? Did you have some time this morning to talk to her?
Yeah, she's here now.
Okay. Can you talk to her? Is it worth us all three meeting in person, maybe to get this done today? And again, no is fine if you don't want to do the deal.
Yeah, let me talk to her. Let me talk to her first, and then I'll get back with you.
Okay, so I got a 2 o'clock available today.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, great. So 2 p.m., I'll write this down, and then you'll give me a yes or no whether I should come out to the house.
Yep.
Great. Boom.
Love it.
Okay, so look.
You say, and this is something that I tell all of my TTP family members, all of my company here in Phoenix, time kills deals.
Oh, forget it. That deal's gone. That one right there.
Time kills deals. It really does. And I don't care if it's the response that they're going to give you, like call me in a month, call me in 2 months, call me in 6, or it's the length of the escrow. Some of these smoking hot deals that they say, well, I need 60 days to get it closed because I got to do this with the tenant and I got to do, I got to get somebody out. We push so hard, Todd, to do a post-possession agreement and close that deal in 2 to 3 weeks as quick as possible, especially the big ones, right?
Absolutely.
If we can keep your tenant in there and you get your money sooner, that would be better for you, right? You know what I mean? Like we try to get that done because I'm telling you, 60 days, 90-day escrows, these long escrows, that gives everybody that seller knows the opportunity to give their opinion on what they sold it for, right? And then all of a sudden the cousin and the realtor friend and the whoever, I mean, just anybody in their world that they talk about and say that they sold their house and they tell them how much for, now everybody's got an opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and so again, you see how I'm just compressing the timeline.
Yep.
So first we're at a week, and then all of a sudden, believe me, she does want to pray. She's praying for a higher offer.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's something to come that door. And so, the biggest thing though was about price. Right. She was uneasy with the price, and so I knew that I need to get in front of him. I compressed that. She's going to talk, and so now again, I went from a week down to now today, and then maybe meeting with them today. And so that's real important about compressing those timelines. The other part about that is it could be like they have an appointment with a CPA or brother or sister. And so you've got to define for them what that next step is.
Yep.
Right? In their mind. It's really, really, really important. It's funny. When I go back, sometimes when I coach myself or my acquisition specialist, I'll go back and we're listening to some of those recorded calls. Okay. And we'll notice, hey, listen, we could have gotten a commitment here and we pushed this out. And then we lost that deal because we pushed it out. Mm-hmm. And so let me tell you, this is a game of inches. This business, especially in this market, we're dealing with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 profits. You think this is going to go uncontested? Mm-hmm. No, right? You got to get your rear end out there. Mm-hmm. All right. So, I'm telling you, go to convertwholesaledeals.com. Again, The price is embarrassing. Brent's been telling me to raise it for a while, but yeah. Okay. So ready for the last one?
Yep.
All right. So our last one here is reluctance. Okay, is reluctance. So it's really hard sometimes. We've got one on the line, and we want to say, I'm going to come over the house right now. I'm going to get the deal done. Right? Whatever it is, we smell something hot.
Yep.
We're on the trail, and then what does the seller do?
Oh, no. Well, no. Let me take some time. Let's meet next week. Let's whatever. Right? Like they're kind of like, wait. They want to come over now. Maybe I'm saying something that's not great. Maybe I'm negotiating against myself. Maybe I'm selling it too cheap. Maybe I'm sounding too eager.
Yes, right. And then they ghost, right? They do the Houdini, and they are gone. See ya. Right? And all of a sudden you were like, oh man, people in your group, and they're like, oh, I got a juicy one. I smell it. I smell it. Woo! All right.
Yep.
And then that deal is gone. So this is where reluctance really, really, really takes place. And you've got to be able to have the courage and the bravery to do this. Now, how does this happen? It happens through role play. You get the courage by doing this. And practicing with maybe someone next to you, or your boss if you're an acquisition specialist, or if you're a solopreneur, right? You've got to practice with yourself in the mirror. Listen to the recordings. Listen to your own recording. So do that. So one of the things about reluctance is I'm always throwing the deal away, if you notice that, right? Like, look, if I'm not a fit, right, like, it's totally okay to say no. As a matter of fact, like, I definitely don't want to do business with, buy your house if you don't think this is a good deal, Brent.
Yep.
I totally get that, right? And so you always want to be, pushing away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Constantly. And so you're not like, you want to show enthusiasm that you can get deals. This is where people get caught, is that don't confuse uncertainty with reluctance.
Right.
Big difference.
Huge
I don't care
difference.
I don't care what seller you're talking to. They love certainty. They love certainty. And so, like, look, here's an example. Like, look, I'd love to buy this house, right? But I tell you what, I just can't buy it at 150. I just can't do it. I can't make money. You're in quicksand. I can't jump in with you. I'll throw you a rope, and as in the words of Jack Miller, and I'll pull you out. But if I pay you 150, I'm jumping in with you, and I can't do it.
Yeah, love it.
Now, for me, I'm reluctant, right? But I got crazy confidence.
I love that.
Right?
That is so true. No, it is. I mean, being uncertain it'll crush you. It'll crush you. I mean, if you're going in and you're, well, I think I don't, I think I can get this done, but I'm not sure. That's totally different than reluctance. You hit it right on the head. I never even thought about it like that. That is perfect. Yep.
So some people, they'll do this. They'll be like, oh man, this is the killer, man. Let me just tell you this. You want to lose the deal, you do this, right? So let me throw out a number, Brent, right? And I'll show you what some people do. And this is the wrong way to do it. I'll repeat that. This is the wrong way to do it.
Okay.
Right? So I'm going to throw out a number, and then you say that's way too low.
Yep.
Okay? Yep. So, Brent, what if I could give you, I don't know, $130,000 for the property? Is that something that you consider, or probably not?
130? No, are you kidding me? It's on Zillow for 240,000. You're out of your mind. That's way too low.
Well, I mean, I might be able to come up if I saw the condition of the property. If it was like, in better condition, I might be able to come up. Oh my God. You lost it. It's over. You might as well hang up.
Yeah.
Right?
So explain, why did you lose it?
Okay. Well, number one is that the seller knows you're full of it. Right? Totally know. And that you don't, quote unquote, know your numbers. Right? But, two is like, you just came up so easy. Yes. They just threw it out and you just came up so easy. There's no friction. You're not reluctant to come up, right? So even if you do come up, believe me, it's okay to come up, right? But you got to make them fight for it. When sellers don't fight for a price, man, they regret it. Man, they regret it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And believe me, if my wife gets off, if my wife gets $2 off at something off Target, she feels like she's like hit the lotto.
Yep.
Right?
So how do you so in that situation, how do you not come up right away? What do you
Sure.
say 130, I say it's on Zillow for 240, sure it needs some work, whatever, but I need to get more, whatever. You know what I mean? So how do you come up? Or I mean, how do you
Perfect example, right? So look, 210. Right? Like Brent, and now I've got to use the other technique because you're always now picking and choosing, right? Do this. Now, this is exactly like The Matrix. There's a movie, part in The Matrix, where Keanu Reeves, right, he's like learning all this stuff, and I don't know what they call him. What do they call him in there? He was like the chosen one, right, or something like that, right? And so he's learning stuff the entire time, and nothing clicks. What happens when you use these techniques, one day, all of a sudden, you're going to be like, choo, 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 and they're all going to come together, right? So what I would do is I'll throw out a number. Right? I'm trying to condition, start low. They're going to come back and they're like, no way. So what I have to do here at this point is now use one of the other techniques here, right? So I might throw in a stealth mismatch. Like, look, we're so far apart, right? Again, you want that. Why don't you just list with an agent?
Right.
Again, I mean, we're like so far apart, right? And I might do that, or they can say, hey, look, it sounds like there's a pretty good gap. Some people with us, they do business with us because they want speed and convenience, right? I mean, is there even a reason to continue this conversation, or probably not? Right, so I say I'm probably not, and I'm walking away, and now I make them talk.
Right.
Well, is 210 the absolute best you can do? I mean, can you come down at all? Right, like a ballpark. And so now I get them talking. Right, the second I come up, I'm dead in the water. And so that's really, really, really important, is that you must have that certainty. Right, if someone says, how soon can you close? I'm going to say, how soon would you like to close?
Yep.
Right, it depends. Right, again, if you give me my price, I can close on the date of your choice, but I got to be able to make a profit. I mean, I wish I could give everyone top retail, right? I'm at a lot more houses.
Yeah.
But I just can't do it.
Right. Yeah.
I just can't do it, right? Or else I'll be living with you in your next house, right? So, you make a joke, laugh, right? Go back. But people love it when you're laughing and joking, right? Use your script, go off the script, come back to the script, right? Laugh with them, build rapport, use one of the techniques, right? There's a little something here I'm going to throw up. It's a little bonus, right? And actually, I talk about this in the system, right? And by the way, it's convertwholesaledeals.com. And remember, by the way, through Sunday, everyone gets a recorded calls, their own recorded call. They send it into Brent.
Incredible.
And I'll do that, right? We're also throwing a bonus through Sunday, where actually I do a cash buyer training. I'm going to show you how to double your deals by actually using these techniques with your cash buyers. Right, so that's a bonus that I'm going to throw in again through Sunday. But the last thing that we talk about here on this certainty, okay, and really, and I'm looking at my notes here, and the reluctance, okay, is if we feel like any point we're losing the seller during the conversation, we can say, hey, look, like at any point if you feel like this is not okay, like just tell me no. It's okay. Like you won't hurt my feelings, right? And we do this little something called a give up. And they say, well, it's not that. It's just that I had this house for so long, right? So then what you do at this point is you give up, right? And you say, hey, look, let's take a break. If you want to say no at the end of this conversation, it's totally fine. I get it. Let's take a breather for a second. By the way, tell me about what's on the wall here. Right, and you totally are saying, look, I'm probably not going to buy your house today, and let's just take the pressure off.
Yeah.
And you go away, and you now become the seller's friend, right? And now, believe me, you are walking out of the door with that contract. I guarantee, right? So you're out the door, you're walking, hey, by the way, again, I know we decided not to do business. Can you tell me a little bit, like, what was the main issue? What were you uneasy about? Say, oh, well, it was really, about this 5K. Well, why do you say so? Are you telling me that if I can come up 5K that we could do business? And again, no is okay, right? So you can weave in and out, right? And as you practice and you role play, your confidence grows, and you learn how to be. You be more reluctant, but also build better rapport, right? You get commitments, but also being reluctant, right? You condition them, but not too much, right? Because if you lose them, guess what? You could reel them back in, right? And most of all, right, that redirect, right, is that main control of the conversation. When you use that, if you're on the phone with the right person and who you're spending time with, so that you can make the most amount of money possible.
Love it. You inspired me to do, I've been thinking about this as we've been having this conversation. I'm thinking I'm going to put together the top 25 like objections or like friction points or like the toughest parts of my acquisition manager's life. And then I'm going to do 5 cards, one of each of these techniques. And somebody's going to have that card, and I'm going to pull out an objection and make them use that specific technique. You know what I mean? It's not going to fit perfectly, but be able to role play it, be able to get it so that it's second nature. Because I think if you're practicing it outside of appointments, you don't have to practice it with an actual distressed property owner. You know what I mean? Make a whole game out of it.
Look, who wants to be practicing with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on the line? I've done it, and believe me, and I've paid the price.
Oh, me too. Yeah, 100%.
Guys,
listen. This has been absolutely unbelievable. I mean, we talk about having a fixed versus a growth mindset. If you have that growth mindset, I mean, there's probably 30 things that you could have wrote down in your notes about what Todd has told us, has explained, has instructed us in this conversation. Go back, listen to it again, pick out the points, and take it to the next level. Take it to Convert Wholesale Deals. Yeah, that's right. ConvertWholesaleDeals.com. You got to get into this course, and then also you get a chance to have Todd diagnose your recordings. I mean, that's bananas. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that's just
only through
silly.
Sunday, by the way. Only through
Right.
Sunday because I can't do that many, right?
Right.
So just it's only through Sunday to that. But I mean, I would love to do that, and those are a lot of fun.
I love
And
it.
also, I'll let you. And the other people's, you can actually listen to theirs too. So I will diagnose theirs, and so everyone who does that, you'll have that opportunity. And I'll put them in the course so everyone can share them.
Listen,
But
the top people in our industry go to Todd. Todd has an unbelievable, stellar, sterling reputation among the top people. I mean, we're talking about a guy that has done 8 figures in business. I mean, like, be around people doing way more than you, for real. I mean, this is silly. So I mean, this opportunity is just incredible. So I love that you were on this, Todd. You're always like the best at this. I don't care, everybody else is like second by a huge distance. And
thank you,
I'm
brother.
just telling you that from my personal experience with my business. I mean, it's exploded. Now we're at $27,000 a deal when we were half that before having a 30-minute conversation on Skype with Todd. So it's powerful stuff, guys. Really take it seriously. What is the 5 again, Todd?
We got the redirect. We've got the reluctance. We've got the verbal commitments. We've got the conditioning, and we've got the stealth mismatch. And again, they're all kind of married. But working again, even if you don't buy the convertwholesaledeals.com, listen to this video again. It'll definitely boost you. I promise you, this is not a skill that you're born with. Right? Is that if you learn this, you can change your income, you can change your life. You could change your future. And so again, whether you buy or not, listen to this video again. Okay, guarantee you're going to see your income go up.
Love it. Thank you so much, Todd. And if you are interested in joining the most proactive group in real estate investing, go to wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Check it out. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. You're going to have to scroll for a while because there is so many, dozens and dozens and dozens of testimonials. If it feels good in your gut, sign up for a call. It'll be the best call of your year. Todd, you're the best. You have always, you have always given straight, direct instruction, and you're the best at this. So I'm so happy that you're on here. Everybody else out there, until next time, I encourage you to talk to people. See ya.